Hello, once again, I am the king of content, and I'm here in the King's Court with Mitch Joel. Mitch, thank you for joining me.
My pleasure. I get to.
You do get to shake the regal hand. I don't. They're too small for my fingers. Mitch, I know why you're here, but to some people who are not as wise as you and I, what brings you to the Art of Marketing conference?
I was asked to speak. I own a digital marketing agency called Twist Image, and I wrote a book called 6 Pixels of Separation, named after my blog and podcast. And I've got a new book coming out next year called Control, Alt, Delete.
Now, just as I empower my people with my might, technology is empowering individuals to compete with large corporations in the marketplace. What does this mean for marketers?
I mean, I think ultimately it means you have a chance to have a direct relationship with consumers. I think before you sort of had a lot of intermediaries. It was hard to communicate. It was hard to market unless you had money and an open platform to do it. And now suddenly anyone can hop onto one of a myriad of social networks and be directly connected to people, and not only people, but be able to hear and feedback of what they're saying and how they're engaged. And that's exciting.
Now, what can the large corporations learn from these small individuals?
These, what would we call them back in the King days? They would be the plebs. Would they be plebs?
Plebs?
Yeah. Do you know how hard it is to do an interview with a person who's dressed like you are?
No.
You don't, because you're always you.
I'm dressed like me.
Yeah, exactly. You must be asking the same question. What was the question? No, I think ultimately what it does is it humanizes big companies, and it helps us, I think, understand this as a society something really powerful, which is we tend to see corporations as these big, bad, ugly things. But in your kingdom and in my world, you probably come across many people who are just good people. They're good family people. They're just trying to put in a hard day's work and do the right thing. And I think we often forget that. We think that these corporations are these cold and heartless kingdoms, and they're not. And I think what the platform does is it enables brands, specifically big brands, to really humanize what makes them up and how people connect to them. The challenge is in orging for it, and being organized for it and being able to execute on it. Executing, something else you must know a lot about.
I do know a lot about executing, although we try not to talk about it.
Keep it on the down
low. It's not
low.
good PR to let people know how many people we execute. But now as a king, I have the privilege of setting the trends for my people. But not everyone has that privilege. How do you stay on top of the changing trends in digital media?
Yeah, I attend events like the Art of Marketing. I always tell people it's like I don't just speak at the events. I actually do. I try to attend them and take notes. I speak to a lot of people. I spend a lot of time reading. I spend a lot of time writing, and I think writing is probably the best way. In writing and blogging and writing books and articles online and print, for me at least, it's been a great process of critical thinking. And I think a lot of that is missing from a lot of people. They don't spend the time really critically thinking about this landscape and what it means. So for me, those are the sort of pillars of what hopefully keep me somewhat in line with what's happening in the world.
Now, just as I look to the horizon to make sure that the Visigoths aren't returning, what are the new trends you see forming on the horizon that marketers should be looking out for?
The Visigoth app is one of the big trends that I see coming. So you're
good. They've developed
GPS,
the Visigoth app.
Yeah.
We need that in my kingdom. They are sneaky.
Yeah. For me, I guess one of the bigger things is understanding what type of media you're playing. And I think once the social media has become so pervasive that now it's more a question of, is media active or passive? So to me, that's going to be the sort of emerging trend. It's figuring out TV, which has been fundamentally a passive media, what happens when it becomes active with things like Apple TV and Google and things like that, and Roku. The other side of it is active media. When you have a platform like Twitter, how is it that people will continue to engage and do things? Twitter has evolved so dramatically. Today is a great example of it, actually. Before, if you saw something you'd like, you say it. If you saw something you didn't like, you'd say it. But as Twitter grows and more people are connected, what I've noticed today is if you're doing well, people will tweet about it. If you're not doing well, it's really quiet. So they won't actually say, oh, this person sucked, or I didn't agree. They'll just sort of be quiet. And the silence is deafening. I talk about social media and all these platforms giving us great humility. Because when you publish something, anything, a tweet or a blog post, it's immediately recognizable whether you've got digital tumbleweeds going through your life or people are really engaged in it. So to me, those are some of the things that I'm more paying closer attention to.
Do you have any advice for marketers looking to speak directly or indirectly to their consumers?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first step is really listening and trying to understand who they are and how to connect to them, and then really figuring out the value add. I find that all too often, once they're discovered, the brand's natural instinct is to attack and kill that person, like just jump on them and drown them in offers or just random meanderings. These are opportunities to really engage. It's unlikely that any brand will have a serious conversation with the consumer. I don't really believe in that. I think at best, brands have really powerful engagements with consumers online. So to do that, I always say take a step back, understand what the brand is, but at the same time speak to people and communicate to them as if they were asking you a question in one of your outlets or locations.
Now, your name is Mitch Joel.
It is.
Joel, an interesting last name. I'm wondering, any relation to Billy Joel?
Other than us being blood brothers, nothing.
Okay.
That's a joke. No relation.
No relation to Billy. That is upsetting because my next 7 questions were about the song Uptown Girl.
Right.
So I'm going to.
Well, she's been living in a.
I'm going to pull out my notes. Now, you speak about in your presentation, you talk about WTF. Now, yeah. WTF generally has a different meaning than what you talk about in your show. So I guess WTF do you mean by WTF?
Right. So my WTF was for What the Five, which was my sort of 5 movements, which I'm not going to go through here, but those are my 5 new movements you need to think about for business. And when I do go through them, I often say to myself, WTF.
Now, will they be discussed in your book?
They will be. That is going to be the core of the first half of my next book.
Excellent. So you pick up the book to find out what the 5 really are. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Mitch Joel. It was very wonderful talking to you. Thank you for stepping into the King's Court. Mitch Joel at the Art of Marketing Conference.
My regards to the Queen.